Experts worry the magic in the new weight loss medications carries a dark side. Drug makers are working hard to convince Americans they need the next generation weight loss medications, but many come with side effects. And the fact is, we don't really know what happens long term. This is an article from the USA Today, which is a pretty mainstream publication. And for them to be critical about the new weight loss medications is pretty telltale sign that maybe we should really look at these really carefully before we jump right in and be putting our kids on it. Recently, these two medications that have come out are, it starts out what they call something called Wegovy. And this is what it looks like. It's Ozempic. It's a semaglutide injection. And then there's another one called Wegovy and Trizipatide. And these are medications which are truly effective weight loss drugs. I mean, they actually work to lose weight. However, it says that the solution that many have been waiting for decades, drugs such as Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro can help somebody lose 15 to 20% of their body weight. Okay? Think about that. You know, 15 to 20% of their body weight, as much as 60 pounds for somebody who started at 300, far more than has ever been possible without surgery, which is why these are so popular. But some doctors, psychologists, and eating disorder experts worry that these new medications, originally developed to treat diabetes, could become a problem long term. Now, common side effects of these so-called GLP-1 receptor agonists, which is what they're called, common side effects are nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, and constipation. And these symptoms can be significant. Nearly half of the people with diabetes quit an earlier generation of the medications within a year. One real-world study showed, and 70% quit within 2 years. Most people are likely to regain lost weight if they don't keep taking the drugs for life. And the psychological toll of that rebound could be damaging, psychologists are predicting. Those who lose weight on the once weekly shots will probably still need to exercise and eat well to see a health benefit. Substantial weight loss is generally associated with an improvement in health, but that has not yet been shown with these medications. And people may not realize how much the companies making these $1,000 a month medications are working behind the scenes to convince people that they need these appetite suppressing drugs. And this is a quote: "That's part of the problem with these medications right now. Big Pharma's influence on doctors and Big Pharma's influence on education," said Dr. Kimberly Dennis, a psychiatrist who specializes in treating addictions and eating disorders. Everything we saw with the opioid epidemic, comparing it to the opioid epidemic, that's me. So here it says, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. How these medications promote weight loss and what you need to know today. These companies, the companies, society, and many doctors are reinforcing the false idea that a certain body mass index equals health and another equals illness, she said. There are people at a whole range of sizes and BMIs. By the way, BMI means body mass index, or how much of your body is fat compared to lean muscle. So there's a whole range of different sizes with BMIs, and these people are healthy when you look at actual diseases. Weight loss drugs are not a cure. For many of these folks, they have no actual illness at all, other than having a high BMI. There's plenty of thin people have high blood pressure, for instance, and plenty of people who are considered medically overweight or obese don't, said Dr. Adrian Fug Berman, who studies pharmaceutical marketing practices at Georgetown University. It's not clear you're going to get improved health outcomes from weight loss medications, he said. And people with larger bodies will be blamed if they fail again to defy biology and keep the weight off, said Tigris Osborne, board chair of the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. Every time there's a new drug that promises to help people lose weight, the cultural focus on changing fat people into thin people becomes even more relentless than it already is, she said. So-called advances in curing fatness always serve to remind fat people just how many people think the world should be cured of us. Okay, so when it comes to semaglutide, drug companies promote weight loss and medication. Drug companies, in particular Novo Nordisk, maker of Wegovy and Ozempic, have been building demand for their product for years. These companies have hired leading obesity medicine doctors. Novo Nordisk paid doctors just under $14 million in 2021 for education and training. That's $14 million in education and training, government records show. While Eli Lilly, the maker of Mounjaro, paid less than $1 million. Novo Nordisk believes that responsible engagement between pharmaceutical companies and the medical communities is good for patients and advances care and science, said Natalie Salomeo, the company's senior director of corporate brand, said in an emailed statement. Now, they make the Ozempic. Obesity is a chronic, progressive, and misunderstood disease that requires long-term medical management, her statement said. One key misunderstanding is that this is a disease of willpower, when in fact, there is underlying biology that prevents people from losing weight and keeping it off. Novo Nordisk, the manufacturer of Ozempic, also provides funding for medical education on obesity, including one session for nurses called Obesity, the Elephant in the Room. Novo Nordisk was recently suspended for 2 years from a pharmaceutical lobbying group in the UK for quietly sponsoring a training program that was actually a promotional campaign which Novo Nordisk knowingly paid for. It marked only the 8th time in 40 years the Association of the British Pharmaceutical Industry sanctioned one of its members. Pharmaceutical companies are lobbying heavily to get insurers, including government-funded Medicare, to cover the cost of weight loss medications. About 40 million of the 110 million Americans living with obesity have insurance coverage that includes weight loss medications, Novo Nordisk said. Novo Nordisk believes the most effective way for the millions of Americans who need anti-obesity medicines to be able to access and afford them is to ensure these medicines are covered by government and commercial insurance plans. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine last month found covering the cost of these medications for only 20% of eligible patients would cost Medicare $13 billion a year. Some argue this undercounts the savings that would come from improved health of those who lose weight. Drug companies also support the Obesity Action Coalition, an industry-backed group that says it fights weight stigmatism. Novo Nordisk was the coalition's largest and only platinum donor in 2021. Eli Lilly has 2 categories down in the silver category. Now remember, they make the Ozempic. Roger Chastain, a patient advocate and activist who researches the weight loss industry, said it doesn't make sense for drug companies to say they're against weight bias while simultaneously pushing for insurers to cover their medications. That's not actually an anti-weight stigma position. If drug companies really wanted to perform a public service, Chastain said, they would focus on supporting the health of people of all sizes rather than trying to shrink a few people. Now, this new anti-obesity medication costs $1,000 a month. That's $1,000 a month. How many people actually make $1,000 even in a week? And they're going to spend it on this drug. How will they afford it? So some of the medical challenges of weight loss drugs in the past, the human body has evolved to hold on to any extra pounds, interpreting weight loss as a life-threatening famine. That's why we have to hold on to the weight. This makes it extremely difficult for most people to lose weight, and especially to keep it off long term. Among many lifestyle changes over the past 40 years, people's weight has increased along with weight loss attempts. So focusing on weight loss is not an effective solution to improve health. A study in 2021 concluded. It's more than just losing weight, everybody. Studies suggest that this seesaw, this in and out of weight gain and weight loss, may cause more health damage than just simply carrying the weight. One compilation of other studies in 2021 showed that weight cycling, which is yo-yo dieting, was associated with an increased risk for diabetes. An earlier study from the same researchers showed an association between weight cycling and a 40% higher risk of death, particularly from cardiovascular disease. It is not clear whether the newer generation of weight loss drugs, which suppress appetite, will provide different long-term results than other weight loss approaches. In the longest study, lasting 68 weeks or about 16 months, weight loss plateaued and started to climb again by the end, suggesting people's bodies had acclimated to the drugs. We certainly don't know what will happen if people are on these weight loss drugs for the rest of their lives, which is what Novo Nordisk is suggesting, Chastain said. Dr. Diana Alba, an endocrinologist at the University of California of San Francisco, said she's not worried about the long-term effects of these GLP-1 drugs because similar ones have been on the market for decades to treat diabetes. She says, we see obesity as a disease and we treat it like having high blood pressure or having type 2 diabetes. No one would expect blood pressure or blood sugar levels to remain just as controlled if someone stopped their medication for these conditions. Makers of these GLP-1 agonists like Novo Nordisk, the Ozempic, freely agree that people will regain lost pounds once they stop taking the medications, as clinical trial participants did after the trials ended. The drugs also come with a warning that they may increase the risk of thyroid cancer, acute pancreatitis, gallbladder disease, low blood sugar, kidney injury, damage to the eye's retina, and suicidal thinking or behavior. The risks of serious side effects are small, but the more people who take them, the more people could suffer from these side effects. Although the American Medical Association decided a decade ago to call obesity a disease, declaring someone diseased simply because they have a body mass index of over 30 is inaccurate and perpetuates a weight stigma. I cannot tell you if a person is healthy or unhealthy simply from their BMI, she said. Instead, she needs other health metrics such as blood pressure, fasting blood sugar, and hemoglobin A1C levels, as well as information on diet and exercise to decide if someone in a large body also has an illness. Hugh Berman is particularly concerned about the marketing of these drugs to children. The American Academy of Pediatrics changed its guidelines in January of this year and now recommends aggressive weight loss methods for children as young as 2 years old, including surgery and medications for those as young as 12. That's the American Academy of Pediatrics changed its guidelines January of 2023 and now recommends aggressive weight loss methods for children as young as 2 years old, including surgery and medications. Wegovy was approved in December for use in children ages 12 and up after approval of an earlier GLP-1 agonist from Novo Nordisk in 2020 for the same age group. Boy, that should concern you. That should concern anybody. A clinical trial by Novo Nordisk, by the way, Novo Nordisk was the maker of Prozac, and it was the #1 selling drug for many years. Now they've hit a home run with this GLP-1 agonist. A clinical trial by Novo Nordisk showed that 134 adolescents, which are children, with obesity or who were overweight and had at least one related health condition lost about 16% of their body weight over 68 weeks while taking Wegovy, in addition to eating healthy and exercising regularly. The 67 adolescents in the same trial who received the placebo lost less than 1% of their weight over that time. But there's no data on these drugs longer term among children who are laying down the bone needed for the rest of their lives and dependent on calories for healthy sexual maturation, Dennis said. Let me repeat that. This is really important. Yes, it's lowering their weight by causing nutritional changes and food changes in what they're eating. However, children are laying down bone for strength, and they need nutrition to do that, and also for healthy sexual development. We don't know how it's affecting that. All the interventions we've tried in the past decades to combat the obesity epidemic have made things worse, this doctor said. And now we're doubling down and saying, let's do the same thing we're doing to adults. That doesn't work. We just need to intervene earlier and give these things to our kids. It's going to be a disaster. Weight loss drugs and surgery for kids. Why new obesity guidance is drawing scrutiny. So there's some other challenges with weight loss. Now here's one of the other ones. It's psychological challenges of weight loss drugs, which is the Ozempic. Dieting is one of the leading risks for developing an eating disorder, said Dennis, also a member of the 8-person clinical advisory council to the National Eating Disorders Association. She worries the medications will lead to more disordered eating as people try to avoid regaining the weight. Even if they lose pounds, people who overeat because of emotional or mental health struggles will still have these problems, Dennis said. Weight loss does not cure eating disorders or trauma or depression. Okay? Weight loss does not cure eating disorders or trauma or depression. Yo-yo dieting is clearly bad for physical health, but boy, is it bad for our mental health, said Erin Parks, a clinical psychologist and co-founder of the virtual eating disorder service Equip Health. These weight loss medications commonly cause side effects or nausea or digestive problems. She said she would diagnose someone with an eating disorder if they came to her saying they couldn't eat because they were nauseated all the time, but they were happy about it. That sounds like anorexia. Plus, making you nauseated on a daily basis is robbing people of the joy of life. Alba, whose San Francisco General Hospital affiliated clinic treats people with few financial resources, said she has some patients who don't really want to lose weight, and she sends them our way. For those who do want to lose weight, she considers GLP-1 drugs as a good option if people can access and tolerate them. Alba's clinic sees only patients with a BMI of 35 or higher. Obesity is defined as a BMI of over 30% or above, and most already have health problems that could be improved with weight loss, like knee pain, metabolic issues, or fatty livers. She says, I think you have to be able to give people the power to have options. Park said she doesn't blame anyone for feeling like they have to put themselves through misery to lose weight. It's hard living in our fat-phobic society, she said. The social attitudes about weight need to change, she and other experts claim. We're tired of hearing about the next magic cure for fatness, Osborne said. How about a cure for anti-fatness? How about a cure for the weight stigma that isn't about us losing weight? Yeah, so we're identifying people with weight as being diseased and sick. And this is the basis behind why the government or the insurance company will pay for the weight loss drug. And that is wrong, without a doubt. People who are considering these weight loss medications should examine why they feel they need to lose weight. What is the reasoning behind it? If they have diabetes, that's one matter, Dennis said. There are appropriate indications for these medications. But for people who have obesity or are overweight with no medical issues, she said the drugs stand to do a lot more harm to a lot more people than good. If you or somebody you know needs help with disordered eating, contact the toll-free National Eating Disorders Helpline. And this article was written by Karen Weintraub from USA Today. And you can get it. It was on the last week. I got it right off the paper there. Let's get there so you can see it. Why experts worry the magic in the new weight loss medications carry a dark side. So this was about Wegovy and about Mounjaro and about semaglutide type 1 agonists. And, you know, at $1,000 a month, and you have to take them for 3 to 6 months to really show any results, you're talking $3,000 to $6,000 out of pocket. And once you stop taking it, the weight comes back. So you would really need to be on these drugs for, forever if you wanted to keep the weight off without learning about food and things. And the other criticism I have about these drugs, how they work, they basically stop you from eating. They affect the satiety. They affect the areas in your brainstem which tell you when to eat and when not to eat. So by taking these drugs, and these receptors are stimulated by the drug, this Ozempic, we don't want to eat. And what happens is your body's caloric needs haven't changed just because you don't want to eat. Your body needs energy to survive, to build muscle tissue, to develop, to grow hormones, to protect, make peptides, to void foods and poisons from your body. There's all this work that the body has to do every single day, and it requires energy to do that in the form of food. And what happens is when you don't eat, when you starve yourself, your body will start to break down. It doesn't get healthier because it doesn't use fat. It uses the muscle tone first. You don't stop eating a meal in a day and lose body fat. You're losing stored energy, really muscle tone. So starvation leads to muscle degradation, loss of muscle tone. And that when you step on the scale, you look like you lost weight. Maybe you lost 10 pounds or 15 or 20 pounds. There's no promise that you lost 20 pounds of fat. You probably lost, well, not probably, you did. In the beginning, you only lost 15, 20 pounds of muscle tone. And some of the studies that they're showing with people that lose weight on Ozempic, when they do the body mass index, they show them that their muscle tone has been lessened compared to when they started. And that is where they got the weight loss from, not from burning body fat. To burn body fat is very difficult by the body, but to burn stored energy in the form of glucose and glycogen and muscle tone is really easy. So what I'm finding happening is when people come into my, I practice weight loss. I use lasers to help assist with subcutaneous fat reduction. At the same time, we help clean up your diet with a common sense food plan. What we're finding is that people that are coming in after using Ozempic for several months, 2 months was one person, another guy was 6 months, all of them had suffered with gastric paresis, slowed down digestion, leading to constipation, chronic nausea, problems, pain in their belly. And when they actually got off the medication, they were weak muscularly. They were challenged with their muscle tone had been dropped down. And when you're over 50 and you lose your muscle tone, whether it's from an auto accident where you're laid up in the hospital and you lose muscle tone, or inactivity, it doesn't have to be from a drug. Your muscle tone is really, really hard to build back when you're over 50, 60, and 70 years old. In fact, most of you, if you lose a substantial amount of muscle tone from an injury, which this drug could be the injury, your chances of building that muscle tone back are like almost negligible. I mean, you're not going to be able to ever bring it back to where it was the day before you started losing your muscle tone. Now, when you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, yes, if you lose muscle tone from an auto accident or being laid up in the hospital, or God forbid you were put on these weight loss drugs, you have a very good chance of rebuilding that muscle tone back. But when you're over 50 or 60 years old and you lose muscle tone from this drug, I think my personal opinion is you're in big trouble, because you're not going to be able to build that muscle back. And you're going to actually be more obese. Your BMI is going to be higher, even though you lost weight. So, that's my take on this stuff. There's a lot of information available on it. You need to look outside of the pharmaceutical reps and outside of the ads you see on TV and the ones that are sponsored. If you go to YouTube and you type in a very intelligent guy, I'm going to put it right here for you, Dr. Robert Lustig, Dr. Robert Lustig. This is the guy. He's an MD, and no, it is not DER. Let me fix that. Okay, so this guy is a endocrinologist. He's an endocrinologist, and he is the guy who is very critical about sugar. But nobody that I've read on the internet or researched gave as much truth and knowledge and wisdom about this medication, these GLP-1 agonists. I mean, he's screaming from the top of his chair at the University of California, Berkeley, that this is a real mistake. We need to move slowly in this respect, that this is not causing, it might be causing weight loss, but it's not improving biometrics or biomarkers or anything that you would attribute to health. And just like this article states and lays out, when you get medicine for something and it's paid for by your insurance company and it's paid for by government subsidies, you have to have a disease. You are now have to be labeled diseased. And gosh darn it, carrying some extra body fat is not a disease process. Okay. It doesn't mean you're diseased. Yes, it could lead to disease over time. We know that. Everybody knows that. But for all the people that carry extra body fat, a lot of them have no disease ever. And, to label everybody because your BMI is high and then and it's insanity, and it will eventually blow up in their faces. But the pharmaceutical companies have already made their profit. They've already made their money. And you're going to be the one that's going to be holding the bag with your loved ones, and the people that you love are going to have the problems as a result of this huge power grab right now. Move slowly, move carefully. It's dangerous out there. Do not assume that because your doctor is recommending it, that they have done the research, because most of them have not. It's proven that most MDs, and I have a lot of medical friends, prescribe the same 10 medications for everybody that come in. It's true. There's 10,000 medications, but because of the lack of time they have to learn about all the meds, and they have certain drugs that they feel are appropriate for people, they will not do any, they won't allow it. They won't recommend any more than a few. So that's all I have to say today. I will see you later. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.